where I can watch TV, and it's kind of entertaining, but it doesn't take long before you go, oh, that's right, I don't miss this trash at all. And there were interesting memes and synchronicities, catching things on national television that happened to do with Seattle, featuring a place that I had just walked past earlier that day, and it wasn't just local broadcasting. And then Portland people on ridiculous America's Talent Show, and just all that bread and circus. Yes, I bared witness to it. And of course, Mel Gibson was on the tip of everybody's tongue, and it was on David Letterman and blah, blah, blah. This kind of veers off topic, but it still, I think, has to deal with what's being built, this new financial world order, and hoping that places where we are will be able to weather these worsening storms, as I said. And that's going to be more community-based food, like I said, but also media and art and all of those things. And I'd like to think, and we've hit some of these articles before, whether it was Tom York of Radiohead talking about the end of the major labels, whether it was Jarvis Cocker of Pulp last week talking about go with the independent over the majors. And then on the flip side, you see the massive psyop memes with Gaga and Justin Bieber, who was just in Portland Wednesday night, and all of that. But there are artists who, for whatever reason, have found themselves in a situation where they're trying to switch up or have to switch up what they've been doing in the massive media industrial complex. So whether that's Radiohead giving away their album, or 9 Inch Nails giving albums away, Saul Williams giving albums away, doing a pay what you can, doing even Kickstarter fundraisers for albums, which I've been reading about a little bit. Public Enemy's doing it. Jill Solbule's doing it. And as I saw a very aging and unfunny David Letterman, it reminded me that Conan O'Brien is now in a situation where he could do anything he wanted. Mel Gibson is now in a situation where he can do anything he wants. He's got the money and the fame and the capital. And that's the thing. When you cut out the media middlemen, you'll find that when you put your art out there at a more reasonable rate, because all the middle men and women aren't getting their cut, you're like, damn, that cuts my overhead. That's more profit straight to the artist. Now, granted, these are all huge cases, and there are only very few Radioheads and Conan O'Briens of the world. But I guess in kind of a wishful thinking, I'd like to think that they could completely shun and kind of usher in this new community-based connection of arts and media and communication and information. But perhaps that's me just being idealistic again. Should be careful with that. So let's now shift gears and get to the latest police state updates. Suffer these crimes as the backlash grows. And we start off with an article from Paul Joseph Watson, where we unfortunately note, and it sounds like hyperbole, and yes, there are many in the alternative media who do overdo things, or sometimes underdo things. Again, this is all, small one-man band kind of operations. I'm not perfect. Don't take a damn thing I say for gospel. You have to do all the research yourself. But I always have to say that Alex Jones and that whole InfoWars team, they do amazing work. They're the ones who got me to dig deeper after 9/11. And they are at the forefront of provocative alternative media, where we note that it seems to look like There can be little doubt that America, along with the West as a whole, is being set up for a total collapse in which life as we know it will be fundamentally altered and rebuilt around a collectivist model managed and controlled by the same criminals who engineered the crisis in the first place. America has been targeted for an economic, military, and social coup d'etat by globalists who know that to get people to accept a new way of life under the heel of the New World Order requires that the pillars of everything that they knew before are completely pulverized in a controlled demolition, if you will. Freedom, prosperity, and community have no place in a post-industrial revolution, and every assault on the living standards of American citizens is designed to infect and wither these ideals. Are we looking at a road warrior? Speaking of Mel Gibson, and those are our media memes. That's why we do this. That's why we track all this information. We'll see amazing things being connected. Are we looking at a road warrior-style collapse of society in 2 years if the entities that orchestrate all these crises are allowed to pose as saviors and institute their austerity fascism? And we've gone over recently that new word, austerity, that seemingly out of nowhere has now been injected into the public discourse. And that means you tighten your belt. But that means they're the criminals who caused the problems in the first place to get you to react, to get the proper reaction out of you so they can shove their solution that they already wanted to do down your throat. Austerity, fascism, carbon taxes, green economy, post-industrial revolution, and the evisceration of America's first world status that will inevitably follow if such measures are allowed to pass. The plan for America is to sink the country into chaos so that it can be swallowed whole and consumed as part of the march toward a global government, or global governance, as they like to say. The globalists want to do to America what they've done to the Third World by creating an underclass of impoverished and deprived citizens who are dependent on government for their every need. Sounds like Soylent Green. And now we have millions of Americans dumbed down to the point where, as major newspapers announce that the country's heading into a third Great Depression, as unemployment soars, as police departments announce they'll no longer be responding to crimes, and as infrastructure crumbles, the top story yesterday afternoon on Yahoo.com, the most heavily trafficked website in the country, was about how Brad Pitt had shaved off his beard. Likewise, as society and the economy collapses around them, Americans are more concerned about protesting the decision of a basketball player to move to another team. However, fortunately, we have a growing number of grassroots movements bringing people together under the banner of resentment and, I would say, resistance against big government. This has led to political victories for anti-incumbent candidates who now seriously threaten to dilute two-party power monopoly in Washington this November. This has led individuals close to Obama to openly invoke the need for a domestic terror attack as the only way to rescue his presidency in the wider collectivist agenda. Globalists are in a race against time to completely destroy everything America stood for so that they can rebuild the country in their own likeness. This is why central banks are now abandoning the U.S. dollar as part of the move towards a global union currency backed by a global central bank that will become the world's reserve currency for the New World Order. The article goes on, but I think you get the idea. And many of the specific things we just referenced in there, we are going to hit on this episode 178 of MediaMonarchy.com. So let's continue down the police state updates, suffer these crimes as backlash grows. We've got National Guard Homeland Response Force coming to Missouri. And if we go north, security plan for Canada-U.S. border announced. Yes, my friends, still building the North American community, as the Council on Foreign Relations likes to call it, the Security and Prosperity Partnership, the Transnational Highway. All of those things are quite real if you take the time to research it. More on this Canada-U.S. border on globalatlanta.com. We also have cops showing Marines how to take on the Taliban. And again, that's the thing. While we now have the beginning of the new financial world order, the terror war still goes on. They don't call it the war of terror anymore, but they just changed the names and changed some of the things.